A winter weather advisory is in effect for parts of North and West Georgia for Tuesday. I'll have the timing on when the flakes start flying.
He was once a leader in the KKK, and now he is calling himself a reformed racist. He's celebrating MLK Day and talking about an unlikely friendship with a black man.
The scariest 30 seconds of a fast food worker's life as an armed man climbs through the drive-through window.
But first, a shadow cast over MLK Day as Dr. King's children and Reverend Raphael Warnock blast President Trump for his alleged use of crude language to describe African countries.
We cannot allow the nations of the world to embrace the words that come from our president as a reflection of the true spirit of America.
President Trump dedicated his weekly address today to King.
It is the dream of a world where people are judged by who they are, not how they look or where they come from.
But otherwise, he's largely marked the holiday out of view after yesterday denying making the alleged remarks during a closed meeting on Thursday.
It's the video you could not turn away from as a parent tosses his child from a burning apartment into a DeKalb firefighter's arm. Thousands of you clicked on the story when we first posted it January 3rd, wondering how you could help this family. Tonight, a look at how your generosity has paid off with Avondale First Baptist Church now filled with donations for the families who lost everything in the fire.
We're connected, and we're connected by our hearts, and it's the hearts that have shown today just how much we do care.
A bittersweet goodbye for Bulldog fans as UGA junior linebacker Roquan Smith confirms tonight he's entering the NFL draft early. There's no denying his huge contributions to the team this year, but most fans on our Facebook page, they're not blaming him. He's predicted to go in the first round, maybe even in the top 10.
Shock tonight after the lead singer of the Cranberries suddenly dies in London. Police were calling Dolores O'Riordan's death unexplained, only saying they were called to a hotel today. The singer was just 46 years old.
And as I speak to you, the temperatures outside are plummeting with a live look right now. That is Rome, Georgia, which is under a winter weather advisory. But these temperatures are nothing compared to how cold it could get tomorrow, with a chance for, yes, that four-letter word that starts with S, snow. Now, the number one question on our Facebook page, how much could we get and when? Let's get the answer. Let's go straight to Chief Meteorologist Chris Holcomb as he tracks this winter weather advisory. Chris.
Yeah, this snow is going to be pushing into North and Northwest Georgia late in the day. This is not one of those things where you're going to wake up in the morning and find snow on the ground because we're not expecting it to move in until later. Here's the snow that's coming in. It's in association with a very strong cold front. The front has some very cold air back behind it, but only limited moisture. You can see some of the snow that's moving through Tennessee and Kentucky right now. That is what is on the way. We've got a winter weather advisory in effect. It does not include Atlanta, but in this part of Northwest Georgia, it goes into effect at 10 o'clock in the morning through 7 o'clock on Wednesday morning. And then for these counties closer to metro Atlanta, it goes into effect at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon until 7 o'clock in the morning hours on Wednesday. All of these areas have the potential for light snow late Tuesday through early Wednesday, up to 1.5 inches as possible, mainly in far northwest Georgia. Around metro Atlanta, we expect about a 1/2 inch or less. So let me walk you through the timeline of what we're seeing here with these potential accumulations. Again, throughout the day tomorrow, it is going to be dry. This is at 6 o'clock. Still no snow in Atlanta, but a few flurries coming into northwest Georgia and then getting closer to Atlanta as we go through the evening hours tomorrow night. Again, mainly light amounts, but look at the blue colors right here in parts of northwest Georgia and west of Atlanta. That's where we could see 1 inch or maybe a little bit more. But around metro Atlanta, Vinny, it looks like we're seeing only about a 1/2 inch or less as this system moves our way.
All right, Chris, we've been monitoring our Facebook page today, and some folks are wondering if this storm could turn out like that storm back in December where we got more snow than we initially thought.
Oh, if I only had a nickel for every time somebody said, last time y'all said we were going to get 1 inch, we got close to 12 in some spots. Well, let me show you the difference in this storm system and the one that we had before. Number one, the timing is different. This is coming in later in the day versus all through the day. We also have a cut-off Gulf of Mexico that's not bringing us a lot of moisture. The moisture with this is very limited. Look at these arrows here. We never really see a good fetch of moisture coming in from the Gulf. This is just limited moisture with that front that's going to be sweeping sweeping through our area, and a lot of this is going to be diminishing as it moves in. So just light snow amounts as it moves in, and then ending early on a Wednesday morning, pushing well off to the east. Now, the thing where people are going to say those weather people have it all wrong again, I'm going to predict that tomorrow afternoon, when we see our temperatures getting up into the 40s, people are going to be saying it's in the 40s, it can't snow. That's not the time when we think it's going to snow in the early afternoon. It's going to be late afternoon, mainly into the evening, when, look at this, that sharp drop in temperatures comes our way, and it's with that drop in temperature where we have that moisture in association with it, and that's where we think we're going to have some of those lighter snow amounts. Stay with us. We're going to walk you through more on the timing of this and let you know when we'll finally thaw out and if we'll see any lingering impacts Wednesday morning with slick spots. More on that in a bit.
All right, thanks so much, Chris. So what about the schools? So far, we have a handful of schools in North Georgia that are closing for tomorrow, with the list that you see on your screen right now. But some parents are worried that metro districts will follow suit, especially since many schools have already canceled class several days this year, even when there was no snow in the forecast. And as Ron Jones shows us, he's putting the districts and the parents, everybody kind of in a difficult position right now.
Yeah, you know, a lot of parents are concerned. I spoke with one dad who says whether we get heavy snow or not, anytime that they shut down the schools, his wallet gets a little lighter.
You know, schools are closed. That means, you know, we still have to work.
Michael Perry gets a little nervous every time there's the possibility of a major storm or snow or ice in the forecast. He's one of tens of thousands of parents in North Georgia with children hit hard by school closures.
It's a huge impact.
The impact hits families and their employers the hardest. So here's how it works. Georgia state law requires that your kids are in the classroom at least 180 days out of the school year. And of those 180, the Board of Education allocates local school districts 4 emergency days or closures a school year, usually because of inclement weather. And if a school district goes beyond the 4 allocated emergency days, they must be made up during the school calendar year. For families and businesses, lost days means lost money.
So we have to stay home with kids or make arrangements for backup care. It costs probably the companies that we work for more because, you know, we have to take time away from work.
And you know, a lot of those counties that we have already surveyed in our area, they pretty much used up those 4 emergency days except for one county, that's Forsyth County. Benny?
All right, and we also have the hurricane days that we used earlier today. Thanks so much, Ron.
Sure.
Appreciate it. All right, the cold is also a reason for concern tonight after a woman was arrested for leaving a child in a car in Atlanta. The temperatures were in the low 40s when police rescued the 3-year-old from a vehicle around 6:30 tonight at Midtown Shopping Plaza on Ponce. The child is okay, but we're still waiting for police to confirm how long that toddler was left in the car and whether or not the vehicle was running. And to keep tracking the winter weather advisory, download our 11 Live app so you can receive alerts on your phone. The app features more than 30 different radars so you can take a closer look at conditions right in your own neighborhood, which is usually one of our top viewer questions when this winter weather hits.
If you don't do something about it, we will have no alternative but to engage in broader and more drastic forms of civil disobedience in order to bring...
Tonight we celebrate what would have been Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s 89th birthday. It's been a day filled with prayers, marches, and acts of service as the nation pays tribute to the civil rights leader and his fight for equality. It's a message that resonates particularly here in Atlanta, his hometown, which became the epicenter for the civil rights movement. Even decades later, the issue of race still dominates headlines here in 2018. You've seen them all, proving that the nation and our community still have a ways to go. Tonight, an unlikely friendship between a former KKK leader turned reformed racist and a black man. It's all helping lead a discussion at the King Center. Natisha Lance joins us live from there. Hey, Natisha.
Hey, Vinny. Well, you wouldn't know it now, but earlier this evening, the King Center was filled with people who were celebrating what would have been Dr. King's 89th birthday. It was a day of service, also a day filled with lots of conversations, as you just mentioned. Many of those about how close we are to fulfilling Dr. King's dream and also how far away we are from fulfilling that dream, and particularly when it comes to the racial divide. Now, there was at the center of that conversation, there was a former Ku Klux Klan leader who has formed an unlikely friendship with a black man, and they say that they are proving that there is a bridge that can be built for the racial divide and that it is entirely possible.
And how can you hate somebody when you don't even know them?
That question is what led Daryl Davis into the domain of Ku Klux Klan members around the country. For the past 30 years, he says he's befriended and convinced Klansmen to give up their uniforms.
It's a Klan robe.
This, he says, is just one of at least 200 robes he's collected over the years. Eventually, he plans to put them into a museum to preserve history. It's a history Scott Shepard would like to forget.
It puts a sickening feeling, really, in the pit of my stomach that I was ever part of that.
Shepard was an active member of the Klan and other white supremacy groups for over 20 years.
Life nearly destroyed me. I mean, physically and literally almost died over it.
It took 2 stints in rehab for alcohol before Shepard reached out to Davis through email, saying he'd heard about his work. Quickly, an unlikely bond formed.
And he told me, he says, I'm your brother and I'm always here for you. And he has been.
Shepard also made amends with the woman who raised him, a black woman. He calls her Becky. She turns 103 today.
She hugged my neck and she told me, she says, I knew you'd always come back home. And I knew I was home.
Davis and Shepard shared their story of what they call a brotherhood tonight as part of the King celebration and a conversation about bridging the racial divide. Davis says it can be done. It just takes one thing.
Humanity.
And Benny, that is something that we are hearing a lot more about, and we're going to continue to hear much more about that over the year, especially leading up until April. That is when we will commemorate the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination. And from folks I was speaking to here tonight, they say that they are hoping that Dr. King's message being on the hearts and minds of people throughout this year will hopefully make a difference when it comes to race relations and also the political climate that is going on in the country right now.
Yeah, amazing story, Natisha. You talk about having hope tonight, having a former KKK member doing what he was doing tonight at the King Center with this other gentleman. Unbelievable stuff. Thanks so much. You know, we've covered the MLK service for years, but today's celebration had a very different feel. It's not something you'll see people talking about on most networks, but it's something one of our veteran 11 Alive anchors noticed with some familiar faces missing in the audience. Jeff Hollinger explores the shift in attitudes and the impact of this a little bit later on in the show. Plus, a teen's daring escape leads police to a house of horrors with the girl's siblings chained to their beds. The victims in such bad shape, police could not even tell how old they were.